gonna start from my daddy.
Okay.
When he was.
Hello, everyone. I am Paul Wizzo, and welcome to Wizzo Talk. Why Wizzo Talk? Because I want to know, don't you? Here at Wizzo Talk, I play it like you said, uncut and unedited. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on all the hot topics yet to come. Today's topic is going to be talking about growing up in the early 40s. But before I get started and introduce my guest, I'd like to say that if you have a parent or grandparent or someone that you know that grew up in the 30s, the 40s, or the 50s, give them a microphone and let them just take off with it, because history is changing so much. And if you don't let them speak and record them, then you already know that they're not teaching us that in the books or in schools or anything like that. So we have to maintain and preserve that history. So if you know someone like that or that age, or your parent or grandparents, please just record them, let them talk, and so we can keep that history uploaded on the internet, and that way we'll always have it for their kids, their grandkids, and so forth and so on. Now, today is my first podcast today, and my dad is one that I'm going to be interviewing, and he's going to be talking about growing up in the early 40s. And this here is not in the textbook. You're going to hear about him shining shoes and hustling out on the street. You're going to hear about him, how he had to almost went to jail. I can't remember if he went to jail or almost went to jail for drinking out the white water fountain. He come from a family of swimmers. It was 10 of them total. Come from a family of swimmers. Couldn't get certified to swim in Texas, so they had to go to Oklahoma to wind up getting certified, and then come back to Texas to teach other blacks how to swim. You also, he's going to talk about him. He's going to tell you about in the 80s how he saved a girl from getting raped and stuff like that. So with no further ado, I'm going to give you all, turn it over to my dad, Larry, a.k.a. Tootie, and let him take it away. And you guys, I'm telling you, this is, you don't want to miss this. This is something that's not in the history books. So, Dad, it's all yours. Just take it away.
All righty. Hello, how's everybody doing? This is Larry Womack, better known as Tootie. I'm going to start from the time when my mother and dad was together. No, before my mother and dad got together, my dad lived in Baytown. That was in the countryside of Houston. Black people couldn't live in Houston. My daddy was born in 1909, and it had black, well, I'm going to say Negroes, not black. Negroes had to live the outskirts of Houston. They couldn't live in the city because that's where all of the white people lived in the city. Black people lived in the outskirts, like Sealy, Texas, and Baytown. Well, my daddy was born in Baytown, 1909. Then he had two sisters. One of them was born in 1906, and both of them lived to be over 100. My daddy didn't make it to 100. He made it to 80, but his two sisters made it over 100. And I used to talk to them a lot. And then my daddy moved to Temple, and I'm not 100% sure if it was 1929 or 1930. I'm not 100% sure of that, but I'm going to say my oldest brother was born in 31. Yeah, he was born in 31, Taft Jr. And my daddy he moved to Bell County, and he had 6 boys and 4 girls. And he married Jeff Hamilton's son's daughter. John Luther Hill Hamilton was my grandfather. Jeff Hamilton was my great-grandfather. Jeff Hamilton was born April 16th, 1840. And his son was my grandfather, and his son's daughter was my mama, Christine Hamilton.
Right.
But after she married my daddy, Taft Womack, that's when they had all of those kids. And we stayed right here in Temple, and all his kids was born and raised in Temple. And we had a little, when I needed to, when I first got started, well, my daddy used to make us go pick cotton. Well, I wasn't a very good cotton picker. At least I didn't want to pick cotton, because to me, picking cotton was a challenge, but I did pick cotton. And plus, I used to carry 3 rows. I'd get straddled one and one row on each side. And I had a little girl riding on a cotton sack, which was 14 feet long. And I used to weigh up the cotton in the sack, as high as 125 pounds of cotton in the sack. And this girl used to ride on the back. Her name was Viola McCullough. That was her name. And she used to ride on the cotton sack with me a lot of times when I'd be picking cotton. And then she had 3 or 4 sisters and brothers out there picking cotton. And she liked it, man. Her sister liked him, man. But she had one older brother that didn't like me.
Right.
His name was Thomas McCullough, but we called him P.J. McCullough, P.J. Possum. That's what we called him. But anyway, we had a fight out there in the cotton patch. So after we had this fight, I had to fight all of them, the boys and the girls and all of them. And one of the boys, name was Elmo McCullough. I put that bone on him, and when he went down, and he got back up, and I was over there working on PJ, working on him, and Elmo jumped back up. He said, "I'm gonna have to cut this Negro because he throwing them bones too fast." So he throws up his knife to cut me, and then I reached for his arm, missed his arm, and grabbed the knife. Cut my hand, but I still put that bone on him. Up beside his head, and after a while, he done got enough, so after I put that bone on him 2 or 3 times, he left. Went back over to where his cotton sack was and went on to pick cotton. So we just kept on picking cotton. But when noon come around, it was break time. The white man seen us out there fighting, so he come out there. So we went on back to picking cotton. He broke up the fight. We went on back to picking cotton. But 12 o'clock rolls around, it was time for us to go eat, sit down and eat. Well, I had to go swimming in a tank first. I had to go, and then my sister Genevieve, she went over there with me to the tank. She followed me everywhere I went to. She followed me over to the tank. We seen snake hides, where the snakes had been shedding the hides, bullfrogs in the water, and Bubba Truesdale was the man who used to take us to the cotton patch. And he had a daughter named Joanne, and had a son named Maurice Truesdale. And Bubba Truesdale would take a .22 rifle and shoot them bullfrog when they raise up their eyes up out of the water, hit them right between the eyes with that .22 rifle, and I'd dive in the water and go get them like a dog and bring them bullfrog back to him. And cotton picking wasn't really for me, so then later on in the year, I got away from that cotton picking. And a friend of mine, his name was Willie Joe Gilmore, but we call him 195. His uncle lived in San Antonio. This was back in the 50s. His uncle lived in San Antonio. His uncle's name was Uncle Willie. So we went down there, and his uncle was a plumber. So we were plumber helpers, going underneath the houses, fixing pipes and things, and water lines or whatever. But 195 was scared of a spider, a roach, a snake, or whatever. But I wasn't never scared of anything. We was under them houses, and the houses real close to the ground. So we'd go out to work, and his Uncle Willie paid us, but it wasn't no kind of taxes or nothing taken out at that time. This was in the late 50s. And plumbing wasn't for me either. I didn't like the plumbing. I liked to learn about vehicles, cars, motorcycles. I never went to no mechanic school or anything. It seemed like the man upstairs helped me out a lot. And then I bought a few books, and I learned a little bit from the books, but I got most of the learning how to work on vehicles from the man upstairs. And I know y'all know who that is. That's Jesus Christ. That's who I got it from. And I'm a strong believer in Jesus Christ. Right. And Later on in the years, then I went to working at service stations. Wasn't making no money hardly. And this guy that I worked for the first time was named, what's his name?
Yeah.
I can't remember his name, but he was in San Antonio. I was working. But I left there and came back to Temple and started working for a guy named Otis Fuller. Otis Fuller's daddy built a swimming pool for the black people because black and white didn't never mix. So he built a swimming pool for the blacks. It was a water treatment plant first, and the guy's name was Otis Fuller, and he took a liking to me because he'd sent me run errands for him. I'd run errands for him sometime. I'd go into the store and get something for him, come back while he was working. He took a liking to me, and then later on in the years, I worked for his son. His son was a highway patrol. Otis Fuller was his name, married W.A. Pruitt's daughter. And W.A. Pruitt was a good friend of mine. And back in those days, people thought I was a genius because I could fix things on cars and fix tractors when they couldn't get them started. They'd call up there to the station where I was working and ask my boss, Stanley, can Larry come out here and start this tractor, this farm tractor? We can't get it started. Well, so I started for one guy. They'd been working on it probably 20 or 30 minutes trying to get it started. Couldn't get it started. So they called me, and then I go out there and I started and kept on going. Later on in the years, 2 or 3 other doctors called. This doctor told them other doctors about it, and Dr. Polasic was this doctor, his wife. She said, oh, Larry can start that tractor. She'd been trying to start it for Lord knows how long, an hour or so. Couldn't, never start it. So her husband said, call old Larry up there at Stanley's and tell him to send Larry out there to start this tractor. So I go out there, had it started in probably 5 minutes or less, and it just passed on to different people. Call old Larry, he's a genius.
Yeah.
If he'll get it started, whatever, don't tell what. And I always told him, if it's got 3 things, fire, gas, and compression, I could start it. And I could always start it. Fire, gas, and compression, what it takes to start a vehicle. And I could make a bomb. I ain't going to speak on that. people might send me to jail.
Yeah.
But it takes 3 things to make a bomb, but I'm not making no bomb.
Right.
But I'm starting plenty of cars and motor tractors and motorcycles and things like that.
Well, let's go just for a moment. Let's go back to, I think you was around about 10, and you was telling me you had to go out and hustle out and shine shoes and work on the street and run for them pimps and stuff like that. So let's go back to right there for a second.
Oh, okay, I got you. When I was working at the barber shop, I was working for Greg's Holland was the guy's name. Greg's Holland, he was from Yoakum, Texas. They called him Boss Man. He was the leading bootlegger on 8th Street. 8th and Avenue D is where it was. He was the leading bootlegger. He wanted me to take me in as his kid, but my daddy wouldn't let him have me. But I was shining shoes up there, cleaning the barbershop, dusting the people off, cleaning the floors, shining shoes. And my older brother was there before I was, but he didn't ever get out on the street and shine shoes with a shoe shine box. But I went out on the streets and shined shoes with a shoe shine box to mix with all the soldiers and the prostitutes, the bootleggers, the pimps, and all of them. All of them knew me. And they'd always give me a nickel, dime, or whatever. And the policemen, black policemen, there really wasn't no policemen. I found that out later on in the years when I was doing a little research. Come to find out they were just peace officers for the black people. And that was right there on 8th Street. About 3 blocks of 8th Street was like Bourbon Street in Louisiana. That's the way it was. Temple was a soldier town. All of the soldiers that come to Temple, and they just had a ball. And they'd always be out looking for the women. Had a lot of prostitutes on the street. We called them hoes, but they were prostitutes. White people called them prostitutes. Black people called them hoes.
Right.
And the guys that come in, they be looking for a woman, whiskey, in a shoe shine. So they be looking for Tootie. They say, Tootie, Tootie. They'd always come looking for Tootie all the time because they knew that they could get a shoe shine, a half a pint of whiskey, and a woman. And the woman was 5 for the woman, and it was 2 for the room. And the women was always hollering 5 and 2.
5 and 2.
Whenever they see the soldier, 5 and 2.
Yeah.
Nationwide, all up around New York, anywhere a soldier went, they knew about Temple. Temple was on the map.
Yeah.
Temple population was probably about 12, 15,000 people at the time, but Temple growed later on in the years. Of course, nowadays it's probably 80, 90,000. But when I was coming up, it was probably about 12, 14,000 the most.
And what was it you was telling me at one time about how one of the ladies always wanted you to bring her a white man?
Oh, yeah, that was Frances.
Yeah.
Yeah, Frances Warner. She'd always tell me, she said, Tootie, get me a white man. Get me a white man. Bring me a white man. I took a whole lot of black guys.
Yeah.
Some of them act like they didn't have enough money or they didn't want to pay the $5.
Yeah.
So the white man, he'd give her $5, $10, and $15.
Yeah.
And that's why she was telling me to always bring a white man if I could find one.
Right.
So I took a white man one time, and he came down there looking for Tootie. I said, the devil, this don't got no my name, Tootie. So, but that word of mouth done passed through all them other GIs.
Right.
You find Tootie, you got your whiskey, your woman,
Yeah.
you got everything, your shoe shine and all. So I took this guy over there. He's a soldier. He's a white boy.
Yeah.
I took him over there, and Frances was so happy she didn't know what to do. She got a white man. Okay. She took him in. The man got out of his clothes, and he stood over there. And then Frances done got up over there on the bed and throw the legs wide open. And I'm peeping through a hole to watch him. And I seen that man's head go down between her legs. And she know General Francis went to hollering. I thought he was biting her. I didn't know what was going on. I started to open the door to go in there and see if he was biting her. I didn't know if he was biting her or what he was doing.
Yeah.
So Francis throwed her hand up when she seen the door move, throwed her hand up like this,
Yeah.
telling me not to come in there.
Don't come in.
Because, see, I thought he was biting her. I didn't know what was going on. But he wasn't biting her. He was licking her.
Yeah.
She told me, the white man always say you got to lick them before you stick them.
Yeah.
And that licking them supposed to turn them on.
Yeah.
They didn't know the hole was already turned on. That whiskey that they be drinking, that's, what was it? Oh, I can't remember the name of the whiskey.
All right. Yeah.
But it was half a pint of whiskey that I beat a stole from the bootleggers.
Yeah.
And I've had it in my shoe shine box, and I'd always set it for 50 cents, and the bootlegger sold it for $1.50. But the soldiers got it from me for 50 cents, and I made all profit.
Yeah. A lot of money back then.
You better 50
Right.
cents was a lot of money.
A lot of money.
And
Yeah.
whenever the business got slow on 8th Street, I went to Fort Hood
Yeah.
to shine shoes and belt buckles and boots and stuff like that.
Right.
And about 3 or 4 of us went, and I made almost $50 one night. I made right at $50 in one night shining shoes, and that was in the early 50s.
Right.
And I was shining shoes, and one of the guys that went over there with us, we went over on the bus, 35 cents to ride the bus from Temple to Killeen.
I see.
And one of the guys stole some of the money with the guys that were going into that was in the barracks. Then they would have their money on the bed, and one of the guys that was with us stole some of the money off the bed. So a major or a captain or lieutenant or whatever would come in and put us off the base after that.
Yeah.
Because that guy stealing that money came up missing. They never knew who got it,
Right.
but I knew who got it.
Yeah.
It was an old boy named Wes. He robbed a bank over here in Lot and got busted, but he didn't get busted right away. He went to Oklahoma, bought him a Cadillac, and went to Oklahoma
Yeah.
and spent that money and came back to Temple and got busted. Wesley Grant, that was his name.
Yeah. I'll be done.
And Bobby Joe stayed here, and he went to Kavanaugh's boot shop, bought all them cowboy clothes and boots and things, you know, something he really wanted. Never worked for it, so they robbed that bank. And them boys used to shine shoes with me. But
this was probably in maybe the 50s or 40s or something like that.
That was in the 50s.
In the 50s.
Yeah, that was in the 50s. Yeah.
Right.
Had to been 50. Had to been the early 50s. I'm not 100% sure if it was what year it was, but it was early 50s. I know that much.
Right. Okay. Let's share with everyone, because I know a lot of things that you've told me also. So we have to share this with them also about you drinking out of that white water fountain.
Oh yeah. I ain't gonna never forget that. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna tell you from the start. I done been roaming. I left the house, and after Mother and Dad split up in 1948, and I followed my daddy to the streets.
Okay.
So I just went to roam in the streets. And I was probably about 8 or 10 years old, 8 or 9 or 10. But anyway, I got lost because I went way up on the north side. Black people didn't go up on the north side unless they'd going to work. I walked probably about, that's probably about 2 miles or so where I walked to, and I was tired. So I walked way on out there by a cemetery, by Lamar School, but it wasn't no school out there then. Mm-hmm. Had a cemetery out there. And I walked to a dead end of Main Street, and when I got to, no, it was First Street, walked to the dead end, and then I seen a black guy walking out there. Black people walked everywhere they went, and they called him Nigger Shokes. He lived right over there behind in front of where I lived. I lived on Hawk Street. He lived on 16th Street, and that's where he lived. So I followed him back from all the way up in Nugent Avenue. That's up there where the cemetery and stuff was up there. And I followed Mr. Nigger Shokes all the way back downtown, and that's where I was tired of walking and running, and I always run everywhere I went. But I followed him back downtown. When I got downtown, I wanted a big drink of water. Okay, I was tired, my throat was dry and everything. I said, I'm going to get me a drink of water. I stopped in a place called Woolworth. Woolworth and McClellan had colored folk water fountain, white folks water fountain. I thought it was a different in the taste of the water, so I drank out the colored folks water fountain first, since that was colored water. So I seen white water, so I said, I'm going to try that. I looked around, seen all these white people. Wasn't nobody looking at me, so what I did, I decided to just go and get me a drink out of the white folks water fountain. I got me a little drink first. I looked up. Wasn't nobody looking. Looked 3 different ways. Wasn't nobody looking. So I said, oh, shit, I'm going to get me a big drink. Ain't nobody looking at me. I got me a big drink of water. And I was cooled down all the way from my head to my toe. And I looked when I raised up off of that water fountain, I looked to the right. He was looking at me. I looked to the left. He was looking at me. I looked back. He was looking at me. I said, well, I'm going to run into the smallest one. I'm going to knock him down and keep on kicking. I ran into him and knocked him down. I kept kicking, but he held 1 foot until the other 2 of them got there. And that's when I went to jail.
Drinking out the white water fountain and went to jail.
Yeah. Okay, but now, they didn't say that that's how they called me, but they didn't say that I was drinking out of the white folks water fountain while I went to jail. They didn't say that. They said I had things in my pocket, didn't have no receipts on them. So I was downtown shoplifting. White people call it shoplifting, black people call it stealing. So that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
But they took me downtown, put me in jail. My daddy's at work. Mama had already left my daddy, went to Detroit, Michigan. But my daddy was at work. But when he got off work, when he got to the house, he asked the kids, he said, where Tootie? They ain't never knew where I was, because I was always out hustling.
Yeah.
Daddy, I don't know. So one of the policemen came by, go Graham. He's supposed to have been a policeman, but he wasn't really no policeman. Just he had a police uniform on,
right.
But he didn't have no police car, nothing like that. Couldn't arrest no white people. Wasn't with 3 Mexicans here and stuff like that. So they didn't hang out that much because they swam across the water, and they called them wetbacks. So they didn't want to show too much about them. Mm-hmm. Show up, getting no kind of trouble. So when I went downtown, when they took me to jail, my daddy got off from work. He came downtown, and I was in jail. they didn't put me downstairs where they put, see, it was segregation years.
Right.
White people over here and black people over there. They had a pieced together blanket with some cotton in the middle of it where they put them together, and that's what they had to sleep on. And there wasn't nothing but a drunk black man over there, 2 white men over there drunk, laying on a concrete floor with them pieced together blanket. They put me upstairs with the women, because me being a kid, they put me upstairs with the women.
Right.
When they put me upstairs with the women, I was like a kid in a candy jar. All them hoes up there used to rub me on the head. They rubbed me on the head and all, boy, and playing my hair and stuff. Yeah. They didn't know what they were doing to me, but they were making me like old women.
Right.
But my daddy coming downtown. Then I was in jail. He told me, he said, "Boy, what are you doing downtown? What are you doing downtown? I told you, if you lie, you'll steal." And I lied to him. But he said, "I told you." This was in 1947. He told me. He said, "Now, I'm going to tell you 3 things. Don't worry about things you can't change.
Right.
Do not lie. And a pair of lips will say anything." So I don't want to catch you in no lie, because if you lie, you'll steal. All of that stuff didn't stick with me right then, but you better believe it stuck with me later on in the years,
right.
and it's still with me today, and I'm in my 80s. Right. And it's still with me today. That thou shalt not lie, because you lie, you'll steal. And don't worry about things you can't change, because worries causes stress. Stress causes dementia. Dementia causes Alzheimer's. Next thing you know, you're kicking the bucket. So?
Yeah. You had told me one time, he said he's going to tell you what, find it in Kentucky or something?
Yeah, my daddy told me, well, I was in the theater, in the arcade theater. My daddy had 4 jobs. He worked at Paymaster Oil Mill, the Arcadia Theater, Casey Furniture, and the SPJST building. I quit school in the 9th grade trying to help him. And I was helping him too. But he, when he caught me in a lie, I found a wallet in the theater.
Right.
And he asked me about it. He said, "Tootie," he said, "did you find a wallet in the theater?" I said, "No, Daddy, I ain't seen no wallet, but I seen a lot of change." Well, see, I lied to him.
Right.
And then the man, white man, came back to the theater. He said that's the last place he seen the wallet, was at the theater, so it had to been there.
Yeah.
So they went down looking for the wallet where he was sitting. It wasn't there. And my daddy said, "Tootie, don't you lie to me." He said, "Where's that wallet?" I said, "Here it is." I don't know, he asked me the first time and I lied to him. I gave him that wallet. He told me, he said, "You red bastard, I'm going to tear you in, find a Kentucky flower. I told you not to lie. In 1947, I told you not to lie."
Yeah.
And I lied anyway. He said, "I'm going to tear you in, find a Kentucky flower."
Yeah.
And my daddy's sister, Aunt Shane, she just cracked up when he told me that.
Yeah.
He told me, he said, "I'm not going to whoop you because of what you did. I'm going to whoop you because you lied to me.
Lied to me.
And I told you not to lie, because if you lie, you'll steal, and that's what you did. Come on in here and get this whooping." My daddy told my behind, find a Kentucky flower. And after that, I thought it was child abuse. We ain't knew nothing about no child abuse.
Right.
He put whips on my back, my butt, across my neck.
Just everywhere.
And then when I turned to be about 16, they're going to whoop me again. I was 15 or 16. I was working out with about 150,
Right.
200 pounds the most.
Right.
My daddy put my head between his legs, and I brought him up, and out the door I went.
Yeah. There it is. There it is. See, just like I'm telling you guys right here, this is uncut and unedited. You will not get this in no history book. Stop. Oh, we keep on. All right.
They don't have no black history.
They didn't have the. Oh no, they didn't have any of that.
They didn't have it when I was in school.
Oh no, they're not gonna really change. That's why I was letting everyone know that this right here is coming because you actually live this. This is not something that you'll wind up hearing or reading about in no book. And it's one other deal. You know, you've always told me about you was working at the Cadillac place, and at the Cadillac place in Temple.
Oh yeah, when I was working at the Cadillac place.
Right.
Oh, when I was working at the Cadillac, Moran Kirkendall is the one that owned the Cadillac place. It was right down there on 8th Street. Lincoln Mercury place was across the street.
Right.
I worked at the Cadillac place. Okay. I love cars. I always did love cars, and I like speed. So I was working at the Cadillac place, and I had a friend of mine. We were going to the Little River racetrack quite often, and he was trying to race all the time. And he had a Rocket 88 Oldsmobile. That's what he had. Thought it was the fastest car in the world. I told him, I said, boy, let me tell you. I was working at the Cadillac place where they sold Cadillacs and Oldsmobiles. I said, boy, you can't outrun this Oldsmobile. He said, man, that Rocket 88 outrun anything out there.
What?
Okay, the Hudson used to be the fastest car. But when an Oldsmobile came out in 1951 with that Rocket 88, told that Hudson I knew it. Put it out in the field. So this friend of mine name was Ward, had this Rocket 88 Oldsmobile. Me and him hooked up. I done got one of the used cars from the Cadillac place to race him with. So we went out to race him out Highway 53. Went out there to race them cars, see who had the fastest car. Okay, we took off. I didn't know the police was following us on the motorcycle. And the policeman's name was P.D. Johnson. He knew me personally, knew where I worked and everything, white man. I told Ward's butt up in that at Rocket 88 with that Delta 88, what I was riding in 1956. It was a 1956 Oldsmobile. It was a used car. And I was driving it, went out there and beat him and came back. And the police came out there. And he went on out there after Ward, and he caught up with Ward, and got him, gave him a ticket. He didn't bother me. Right. He came back to the station where I worked. And when he came back to the station, the car lot, I was washing cars and doing things at the Cadillac place on the used cars. Okay. P.D. Johnson come over, he say, Larry, where's that red and white Oldsmobile that was out here a while ago? He said, well, somebody just brought it back a while ago. It's sitting right over there. He said, Larry, he said, I seen you out there driving that Oldsmobile. He said, I seen you. I said, okay, Mr. Johnson. I parked it. He said, you done put two cars in the front of it. So I put them two cars in the front of it. And he said, now, you know I'm going to have to tell Moran. Moran Kirkendall was the man's name, which was my boss. Right. We called him boss back in the day. Yeah. He said, I'm going to have to tell him. So they fired me. He said, Moran come down and told me, he said, well, Larry, I'm going to have to let you go. You can't be racing these cars. Right. As soon as he fired me, I had a job again the next day. Right down the street, a block down the street, Bob Ranley. He was a racer. He loved to race cars. Yeah. Had a 1956 Ford. Going to the Little River racetrack all the time. I was going down there too. The racetrack opened in 1956, and I was going down there, and I started working down there in 1957. I started working at the racetrack. I was a flag man. They didn't have no lights back in the 50s. They didn't get the lights until the 60s. Right. You know, the racetrack used to be the highway to Austin, Highway 95. Used to be the highway to Austin, and then they built a new highway and a big bridge, overpass, and they opened a race. Jerry bought the land what the highway used to be to Austin and made a racetrack out of it. Right. And when he made a racetrack out of it, he hired me to be the flag man on the finishing end. And the finishing end had another guy down there with two flags from the starting line. I was the one on the far end telling who won the race. Right. I'd drop the flag when the car passed through, and I'd walk to the middle of the track and point at the winner. Right. And that's how we found out who won the race. Right. And it had a guy named Vic Fowler, had a 1957 Chevrolet Power Pack 283 with mechanical fuel injection. And I knew all about this car, and I knew it would run. He was whooping everybody down there, and the time that he was running, it was a little over 15 seconds in a quarter of a mile. And a guy named Vic Fowler, he was a captain out to Fort Hood. He used to call me. He used to come talk to me all the time. He said, Larry, did I really win that race? It was so close. I said, man, your bumper hit the line before he did.
Yeah.
I could have hit your fender with that flag. I tell him that all the time. Vic Fowler was his name. I still remember that today.
That's good that you're remembering all these dates and times and people names from back way back in the 40s and 50s. And so is this the time you told me about when you had to fight 3 guys at the racetrack?
Oh, yeah. Well, it had a guy down there. This was a white boy. I don't know his name.
Right.
But anyway, his girlfriend, she was white too, me being a black man. I had a Camaro called Soul to the Bone. Okay. I told, I didn't have to tell nobody, you know, about how it run and that, because they seen me run down the track. But I was at the finish line down there watching the race because I was running against a guy. I had to spot him every weekend, so I didn't run that weekend. I said, I'm going to sit back and watch him because old Billy Joe Legend is down there. And he had a sponsor, the Chevrolet House was sponsoring him, and he had a fast car. He was running slicks, but I didn't have no slicks at that time. I got them later on. Okay, when I was sitting down at the racetrack, down at the finish line, I see about, looked like 50 people or more walking down toward the racetrack, toward the end of the racetrack where I was.
Right.
I didn't know they'd coming to see me. And this white boy had this little Mustang. Oh, he was running. He thought he was the fastest car in the world. He done whooped everybody on the racetrack in his class. He done got the money and a trophy. And his girlfriend told him when he said he done whooped them all.
Yeah.
She said, well, I know somebody you can't beat.
Uh-oh.
That's when she came up with Soul to the Bone.
Yeah.
That was the name on my car. Soul to the Bone. He said, who is Soul to the Bone? So that was me.
Yeah.
And that was my Camaro, Soul to the Bone. I was parked up there. She said, he's right down at the end of the track waiting to catch somebody who want to run. That's what his girlfriend told him.
Yeah.
A black man outrunning a white man, and he was really cocky, and he just figured he could beat everybody.
Yeah.
But boy, I told him, I said, he first come down now. He said, you got any money? I said, son, let me tell you something. I said, whatever you want to run for, make it light on yourself.
Right.
Oh, man, I'm cocky like it wouldn't bleed. I told him, just make it light on yourself. He said, you got $200? I said, what did I tell you? Make it light on yourself.
Yeah.
He said, well, all we got to do is put them on the line. Put them on the line. Get in that other lane over there. And then I asked him, I said, how far you want me to spot you? What'd I say that for? I turned my head and looked back. Bam! He put that bone right in my left eye. Thought he gonna knock me down. But I was a good man back then.
Right.
I shook it off and I come back on him. And then they had all black folks on that side and all white people on this side. When none of them Negroes over there come over to my side to help me, and I'm over there with all them white boys.
Yeah.
All them Negroes stayed over there, but it had a guy out of Elgin, Texas. One guy, he'd been racing. And then when he came over there, then 3 or 4 more colored black guys came over there.
Right.
And that's who stopped the fight. Because they told me, they said, man, that guy got bumps. Looked like the bees been stinging him. I done been putting them bumps on his head, them knots on his face, but it wasn't bringing no blood. So I said, well, I know something will bring some blood, and I bit him right in the face. I bit him right in the face. And every time he look in the mirror, he gonna think about that nigga. I said, I couldn't bring no blood with them bones.
Yeah.
But boy, them teeth sure brought the blood.
Yeah. Like I say, just give him a microphone and just let him go. So, okay, let me take you back to one other time, too. So we talked about the Cadillac place, but you also told me about how the blacks had to work upstairs and the whites
that was
had
at
to
the
work
Chevrolet
down.
house.
Oh, the Chevrolet house?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
They had black mechanics upstairs, white mechanics downstairs.
Right.
Okay. I always wanted to learn about cars. I was in training. They had 3 black mechanics upstairs, well, 4 black mechanics with myself.
Right.
The white mechanic could come upstairs and ask me questions about cars, but we couldn't go downstairs and ask them nothing about no vehicles. We had to be going out the door whenever we went downstairs. Right. Okay. Colin Davis was one of the black mechanics. He was a preacher. Colin Davis was his name, and the other one was named Eddie Harvey, and the other one was named Charlie Lewis, right. And the other one was named Larry, and that's me. But they knew me as Tootie. That's all they knew was Tootie Womack. Right. They didn't even know Womack. All they knew was Tootie.
Yeah.
So the white guy sometime would come upstairs and ask me about the race cars, because I was trying to learn a lot about building race cars, which I did. Right. I got to where I could build the best, and then I didn't just whoop the black boys. I whooped the black boys, all of the race cars they had, all of the race cars the white boys had, and the two had two, we call them chinks, but I guess they call them Koreans.
Right.
They Koreans or some, I don't know what nationality it was, but I whooped them too, and then it had one Mexican boy.
Yeah.
All these black boys, this Mexican boy's name was Simon. He bought a brand new Camaro Z28, and it was orange. They said he got the fastest car out here. That's what all them Negroes were saying.
Yeah.
I bet you 50 niggas, they asked me would I run him. I said, man, you know good well I run anybody that got wheels or want to run, I'll run them. Yeah. And I won't run them 9 times out of 10, I'll beat them. But I ain't going to say I'm going to beat him.
Right.
But I tell you one thing, when he put it in that other lane, I'm going to show him where it's at. He going to watch my tail lights. I said, now, if y'all could get up $50, I'm going to go ahead and show y'all who got the fastest car.
Right.
50 niggas couldn't get $50 together. So I said, well, I tell you what, I just running for nothing. I done already beat Simon with the boy's name. Simon had the Camaro. I said, well, I said to myself, I done already beat him, but I'm going to spot him.
Right.
I'm going to let him take off first, and then I'm going to catch him if he run. Simon didn't even want to run.
He didn't want to run?
No, he was scared. He was scared of getting beat.
Right.
Yeah, he didn't want all them niggas to see him get beat.
Yeah.
And because they were strong believers of it. But they didn't believe it. Well, they believed in me, but they hated on me because of this.
Yeah.
And being a black man.
Being a black man.
Yeah.
I know it. Well, let's just move forward to one time to around, I'm not sure what year it is, around somewhere in the 80s when you saved that white girl from getting raped.
Oh, okay. I was, it took about 45 minutes to tell that whole story.
Well, we'll sum it up a little bit, but just go ahead and talk, and we'll just let you go.
Okay. So. It was one Wednesday morning, and it was June the 9th of 81. I was on my way to work, and I had a black and white Super Sport Chevelle, solid white with a black top and black stripes, real fancy sports car. And I was on my way to work about 7 o'clock that morning. Okay, I was seeing this little girl walking across the overpass on her way for a job interview in front of a building. Well, she waved at me, kind of smiled, and I said, well, I'll kind of wave and smile in a short way, you know.
Yeah.
And I went on to the station. I had to go to the restroom first and got ready to open the station. Then I hear somebody hollering. I heard this girl hollering. Boy, she was hollering and crying and going on. And this guy was beating her up. He was dragging her out around the back of the building. And after a while, she quit hollering. And after she quit hollering, I thought he done killed her. I shot up in the air with that .357 Magnum 2 times, trying to scare him away from her. He acted like he didn't even hear it. I said, when I get over there to him, by God, he'll respect that sound the next time. I ran across them bushes, and he heard me coming across them bushes, and when he looked up, he eyeballed me and then took his shoes off and took out running.
Yeah.
He went running north on the Interstate 35, and I said, I got to catch this cracker. That son of a gun. They're going to think I done did this, beat that woman up, and she laying over there on the ground. They're going to think I did that. So I took out after him, couldn't catch him. So I turned around and come back. When I turned around and come back, got 3 or 4 other, they all white women over there trying to help that girl get her clothes on and get herself together and everything. Right. And after a while, she couldn't talk. So at least she didn't talk.
Right.
So I went on to the station. I looked up first, but I seen this guy walking back, going south on 35. I said, that's the same guy I was just chasing. And I went across that same field I ran across, and I came up in the front of him. Oh, he called me all kind of MF this and that, and ain't did nothing to me, and then walked up on me, and he thought that was going to intimidate me, but what he did, he made that hair stand up on my head like old dog's hair stand up on his back.
Right.
He was making me mad. He called me all kind of MF, and black this and nigger this and that and everything. I said, that cracker get close enough, I'm going to pop him with that .357 right upside his head and shoot it all at the same time. Boy, when he got close enough to me, he swung at me with a shoe, and I leaned back, and I rolled back, and I bam, hit him upside the head with that .357, shot it all at the same time, and down he went. I didn't know I knocked him out. He laid down on the ground for about a minute or so, and me kicking him, calling him all kind of MF this and that. Oh yeah, just from up from there.
Yeah.
I didn't know he was knocked out, but after he woke up, the first words out of his mouth was, "Please, Mr. Colored Man, let me go." I could not believe he said that.
Yeah.
I almost laughed from the way he was doing from the start,
Right.
but I got his attention.
Yeah.
So I took him on over there and I sit him down by my dog. Commander Cody was my dog, a dog that I had trained. I sit him down over there by my dog. I went inside to use the telephone, had my dog to watch him. I'm trying to watch him and my dog and use the telephone too. I dialed a telephone, Temple PD number 298-5500. I've been knowing that since back in the 40s. 298-5500 is the number. And I tried to call him, but I couldn't dial it. Had a rotary phone.
Yeah.
Didn't have no 911 back in them days. So I tried to call him, and I couldn't call him, but I called some lady, and she said, "Tootie, is that you out there on the radio? That mess with getting up in all that white folks' business out there trying to stop somebody from doing that? You?" I said, "Yeah, this is me." I said, "Call the police. I'm trying to call the police and calling you. Call the police and tell them, send them on some out here, such an address. Tell them I got this man out here that's trying to rape this little girl." So they came out.
Right.
And when they came out, they thought it was going to be a black man.
Yeah.
Come to find out it was a white man.
A white man.
And when they wrote up everything on this article, when I was speaking at the city council meeting,
Right.
they never said it was a black man saved a white girl. But they know it was a black man because it was mean.
Exactly.
And they could look at me and tell it was mean.
Yeah.
Black man saving a white girl.
Yeah.
And my sister Genevieve told me, she said, Tootie, boy, you did something nobody ain't never did. A black man helping a white woman. She said, nobody ain't never did that.
They did that.
And then my sister-in-law called me out of Marlin. She say, "Woman, is that you out here on the radio?
Yeah.
And on the TV, is that you?" She said, "You better stay out there in white folks' business. They're going to bust your head. They're going to do you like they did that Negro down there on the square in Temple in 1929.
Oh, yeah.
My daddy told me about the black man whispered at a white woman in 1929 down there and they hung him on the square. They didn't just hang him. They hung him and they burned him too. They killed him first and then they burned him too. Down there on the square right there in Temple.
In Temple, 1929.
Yeah, 1929. I take that back. I'm not 100% sure it was 29 or 30.
Right.
Because, see, my daddy came here in 1929 or 1930.
Right.
I'm going to correct that.
Right.
But I'm not 100% sure that year. But my daddy told me about that later on in the years. And that deal that happened in Oklahoma, my daddy told me about that too. When all the successful black people in Oklahoma, business people, we call them big shots because the rest of the blacks were poor, but they were big shots. The white people burned them out. That's where the blacks got that burning out from. They got it from the white man. Burn them out, and then put them out of business. And see, they put the blacks out of business, so they never been able to really come back. They never came back. But every town, big town that you go to, or a town that be busy, they're going to have a Wall Street. But black people call it Wall Street because of that. That's the reason why they call it Wall Street. Successful black people in Temple was down there on Wall Street. Dr. Dixon, Napoleon, Buddy Robinson, Dr. Dixon upstairs. Buddy Robinson was downstairs with a gambling shack. Dawson Rooming House was over on, well, we call it Wall Street, but it was really Avenue B and 2nd. Avenue B and 2nd Street is where it really was. But black people call it Wall Street. Yes, and that's where they got that Wall Street from. What happened in 1921 in Oklahoma.
And just to go back to the rape of the girl, that's when you got a award from the city and all that too. Didn't they give you an award or something like that?
Yeah, but the Optimus Club.
The Optimus Club.
Yeah,
yeah.
I got an award from them.
Right.
And the Optimus Club was formed from a lot of people that was real wealthy white people.
Right.
No blacks, period. All of them wealthy white people. So to me, that was kind of like the form of the Klan.
Right.
But I can't really say that because I don't know.
Right.
But anyway, I spoke to them and they were quiet as a mouse. I mean, they listened to everything and they could not believe that this black man had saved this white girl and hit a white man upside the head with a pistol and shot it all at the same time. I didn't tell them that I did it on purpose because that's breaking the law, shooting a weapon in the city limit.
Right.
See, I done broke the law 2 times.
Yeah.
I shot up in the air 2 times when I was over to the restroom.
Right.
But when I hit that guy upside the head and shot that pistol all at the same time,
Right.
then that was on purpose, though.
Right.
That was.
Right.
But I didn't tell them that because I thought they might arrest me.
Right. Right.
Because
right.
I done broke the law, and I really believe in the law. But the law have to respect me because I respect them.
Right.
And I got one of the largest medals for the respect of law that anybody could get.
Right.
And it was June the 10th of, no, it wasn't June the 10th, it was late on. June the 10th was when I was speaking at a city council meeting.
Right.
They wanted me to speak at city council meetings, the Lions Club, they want me to meet the mayor, the chief of police, and all the city council meeting people. They all wanted to meet me because, see, they just wanted to know how a black man think.
Yeah.
But now all black people don't think the way I think. Right. I don't see no color. To me, we all red on the inside. We all bleed red on the inside. We all the same.
Right.
All men are created equal.
Right.
That's the way I think. And I helped her because I knew she needed help. Police thought that I knew her. They was talking in roundabout ways if I knew the girl, but I didn't know the girl, never seen her before in my life. Never seen the guy either.
Right. Yeah.
But that happened.
Yeah. And I believe that you told me also it was years later you went on and you've seen that girl before after that happened or a year or 2 later or something like that. You've seen her and they thank you.
She was 15 years old when he was attempt to rape her.
Right.
But the last time I seen her, she was at HEB. She said, Larry, I tell everybody about you. She said, oh, she was so happy. She said, oh, you the cause of me being still here.
Yeah.
And people can't hardly believe it. A black man helped a white girl.
Yeah.
That's what she told me.
Yeah.
And I was in HEB.
Temple, Texas. We ain't going to hear about this in no history book or read about this.
No, it ain't in no history books.
No,
they ain't gonna
tell you that.
What Genevieve and Genevieve Womack Gregg is her name. We was trying to put black history into the schools. We was putting it into the elementary schools first,
Right.
but they didn't act like they really wanted it there, but they let us put some of the literature that we had in there. But Temple High, they didn't want it there, period.
Yeah.
So we didn't never put it in Temple High.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have to just go and let them know because every time you say this, it make me laugh. You say that when you was out there doing a little hustling and going on, you had to sell. Yeah, but this was this part here when you were selling them watermelon. You had some song that they had you to say or some little rhyme or something that you said.
Yeah, watermelon, eat the meat, save the rind, save the seeds for planting time. Watermelon. Cantaloupes, 1 for a nickel, 2 for a dime, work you want, but they ain't none of mine. Cantaloupes. And the people used to come to get me all the time.
Yeah.
Wanted me to holler watermelons when they were going around. Next thing you know, I had a lot of black people going out getting watermelons. See, these were white people.
Right.
But I was, what I was working for. But next thing you know, I had a lot of black people going to get watermelon because they were making money.
Right.
Because they knew black people love watermelon.
Right.
I was eating more watermelon than Cantaloupe and Elizabeth. Eating them right out of the field.
Right. And they come get you because you can sell all them watermelons out. With that little rhyme that you had going right there.
Oh, yeah, sure. That just came to me.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
Eat the meat, save the rind, save the seeds for planting time. Watermelon.
This is exactly why I say when you know someone that grew up in the 30s or 40s or something like that, give them a microphone like I'm doing with my dad and just let him go. We've bounced around a little bit, but you'll never hear about any of this in no history book or or anything like that. So it's important to capture all that history. And now his grandkids and great-grandkids and so forth and so on, once I upload this on the internet, this will be something that'll be there forever. We have to preserve that history, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to go ahead on and interview you, because once all that is gone, then it's gone, because our day and time, I'm in my mid-50s then, I didn't experience any of that, picking cotton and growing up out there and working for a nickel or a dime, even though wages are getting a little bit better for us, but still not quite there yet. So you've lived a lot, and there's still a whole lot more history left in you, because I think you told me the way you first started working on cars was when somebody fixed it for...
Oh, yeah, Charlie Lewis.
Yeah.
Yeah, Charlie Lewis. I had to learn how to work on cars. And I was already... Charlie Lewis worked up to the Chevrolet house, one of the black mechanics upstairs.
Okay.
And I knew he knew a lot about transmissions, stuff like that. Well, my car didn't want to change gears. Okay, I didn't know all of this, what I'm fixing to tell you. About a modulator valve, it's what make them change gears, right. And they had a vacuum line run to it. Well, Charlie Lewis looked underneath the car. I didn't make much over $20 a week. So Charlie Lewis looked underneath the car. He told me, he said, Tootie, it's going to cost you $20 to get underneath this car if I'm under that 20 minutes or 30 minutes or 10 minutes. It's going to cost you $20. I said, man, fix my car. You tell me $20, that's what I'm going to pay you.
Right.
He got underneath that car, and he was kind of stupid, really, because he didn't do like he really should have. Plus, he ripped me off. But it was a vacuum line running to the modulator valve. The modulator valve was bad. That's to make the transmission change gears. Some transmission fluid had got into it and made that rubber swell on the end of the that modulator valve, and the vacuum line slipped off. That's what caused it not to change gears. But if he'd have clipped it off on the end where the hole was too big, where the swell and the transmission fluid had ate the rubber up, he just put the hose back up on now. And about a week or so later, my car went to doing the same thing again. I said, I ain't got no $20 this time. I got to find out what's wrong with this thing myself. Right. I got underneath that car, and I looked around. Everything looked good except a vacuum line was hanging. And I seen that vacuum line, and I wondered where it went to. And I finally seen a place where it go to. I took a pair of snips and clipped it off on the end and stuck it back up there, and it fit right on that modulator valve. I didn't know that was going to make it work. Right. But I got in that car, and that car shifted and worked perfect. I couldn't believe it. And then something told me that's what Charlie Lewis did to it, but I didn't know what he did at the time. But Charlie Lewis ripped me off. $20, that's almost as much as I was making a week, bringing home $30-something a week. Okay, I gave him $20 to do that, but he worked on my daddy's car. And when he worked on my daddy's car, I was over to my daddy's house. He fixed my daddy's car, and he was in there, and my daddy gave him a $100 bill. He didn't have no change. My daddy didn't have no change, so he gave him a $100 bill. Charlie Lewis reached his hand in his pocket, pulled out some money, and dropped $60 on the floor. And when he dropped the $60 on the floor, I seen him when he dropped it, but he didn't know he dropped it. So what I did, I went over there and I picked it up, and I was fixing to give it to him, but something told me not to give it to him.
Right.
Keep that $60, so I put it in my pocket. So I put that $60 in my pocket, and to me, that was my $20 back with interest. That was years later. And I kept that $60.
Right.
And I said to myself, the Lord work in mysterious ways.
Right.
I got my money back with interest.
You didn't think about getting that money back to him. You kept that out.
I kept that $60. Yeah. Now that was in the, hold on just a second.
Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah. That was in about when?
I was trying to think about what year it was.
Oh, okay.
It was in the 70s.
Right.
But I can't remember exactly what year it was.
That's all right.
But it was in the 70s when he dropped that money.
Right. Yeah, so you just went on and kept that money then.
Yeah, but I got that money and I kept it. I said, I ain't getting this back to him. That man upstairs told me to put it in my pocket.
You've been working on cars and building race cars and
Yeah.
and riding in the 3-digit numbers. Because I know when I was a young kid, we used to hear your motorcycle probably about 4 miles or 5 miles away from town. We hear you on that motorcycles getting it out there.
I tell you another thing. Before the motorcycle,
Yeah.
Temple PD, one of the guys, what was his name? Ronald Birch was the policeman's name. Ronald Birch. He had a twin brother named Donald Birch.
Right.
Ronald and Donald Birch.
Right.
Ronald and Donald Birch was twin boys. Birch was working for Temple PD. He said, "Womack, it's got a guy been coming through here and we cannot catch him. Can we borrow your El Camino called the Undertaker?" I said, "No, I can't let you borrow my El Camino, but I catch whoever you want me to catch." This guy in this Chevelle, he just run outside all them police cars, and they had a detective car. Detective, this was in 71. They bought a brand new Impala, 1970 model Impala, with a 454 in it.
Yeah.
Oh, Leo Bender was the one that was driving. He was a cop too, on a Temple PD. And I built a race car for him, and he was scared of driving. His wife drove it better than he did. And I can't remember her name. It'll come to me after a while. But anyway,
That's all right.
I told him, I said, "Get out there and get on it. See what it do." He was scared of the car, but his wife drove it better than he did. So they was really happy with it. But he told me he had a fast car. It was untouchable. It's the detective car. He was a detective at that time. He said, that Impala, he said, it's untouchable. Can't nobody get around that car.
Right.
I said, "Let me tell you something. You see that Undertaker over there? That's that 66 El Camino.
Right.
That's that Undertaker that I built for racing." I said, "Now I can follow behind you until you get up to 120, 130, or whatever you can do." Leo Bender said, "Well, man, it ain't no way." I said, "Well, we can find out."
Right.
He's a policeman.
Yeah.
But I told him, I said, "Now I'm going to tell you something. I'll take you out there and spank you, but I want to know I ain't going to get no ticket." He said, "Well," he had to think.
Yeah.
He said, "I tell you what. Get on out there. I ain't going to give you no ticket. Ain't no be no ticket gear."
Right.
Okay. I rolled along about 80, 90 miles an hour for a little while, and after a while I decided to run out of sight of him. Man, I run so far off from him, he couldn't hardly see me, so I pulled over to the side, and after a while, there he come. I passed some other cars. I'm running probably 130, 140, whatever. Passed them other cars, and after a while, the police over there pretending he was writing me a ticket.
Yeah.
When he caught up there with me, after I pulled over, he was pretending he was writing me a ticket. He said, "Womack, don't worry about this."
Yeah. Just
He was pretending he was writing me a ticket.
right.
But he wasn't writing me no ticket. But after we got back, he could not believe that I was running out of sight of him, or that 454 Impala that he had
Right.
that would bury the needle.
Just gone with it.
Yeah, he couldn't believe it. And Klaus Franklin, I did him the same way. He told me, he said, "Womack, you got 120 on your speedometer. I got 120 on mine."
Yeah.
He said, "Whoever get there first is going to be the winner."
Uh.
I said, "Bullshit." I said, "I tell you what, I'm going to follow behind you until you get to your 120.
Yeah.
He got to 120 or better, I'm still behind him. And I said, "Just throw your hand up whenever you get to 120. He was still up there, and I was just probably about 30 yards behind him.
Yeah.
I seen his hand in the window doing like that, telling me bye.
Yeah.
I mashed on that El Camino, that thing said, "Boop." Seemed like it wanted to fly. Them 2.4s kicked in on that thing, boy, and I went by him like he was tied down. And boy, I went to getting away from him. He went to blinking his lights for me to slow it down.
Slow it down.
Yeah, he turned around, come back. I turned around, come back. He never talked to me no more. He went and bought him a motorcycle.
Oh, he did. Ah, but dog, you done made him switch up to a motorcycle.
Yeah, and then he come back to me again with the motorcycle. Oh, that motorcycle running 11 seconds, quarter mile.
Yeah.
He wants to run my car.
Yeah.
I said, "Man, I ain't running no car against no motorcycle. I can't, them things too quick."
Right.
Okay, my car was running in the 12s at that time. Okay, his motorcycle running in the 11s, seconds and a quarter mile.
Yeah.
I said, well, I'll run you. Okay, we're going to run him. So we went out there. He run so far from me from the takeoff. It didn't even look like no race.
Right.
And then I went to catching him. Got up at about 100. I went to catching him. Seemed like he had another gear or something, and then he went to getting away from me. And I don't know what happened. All I know, he was getting away from me.
Right.
So I turned around and come back. I said, I ain't going to blow my car up trying to catch no motorcycle.
Right.
But later on in the years, after he outrun me on that motorcycle, I went and bought me a motorcycle. And then I had to learn how to ride it.
Right.
And after I learned how to ride it, I told him, this way, another way. He didn't know what, and he got rid of that 1100 and went and bought him an 800.
Yeah.
I made him quit racing motorcycle, car, and everything.
Well, it's not what I know. You named all your cars or whatever, but it was one that I have to let everybody know the name of that pink Cadillac. What was the name of that Cadillac?
Which one?
It was that pink convertible Cadillac. I think you say you had or whatever.
Peaches, this is your can. That was a Chevrolet Impala.
That was a Chevrolet Impala.
63.
Right. What was the other vehicle? I think you named her Titty Pink, or was Titty Pink? Was that the one?
Oh, you're talking about the pink Cadillac.
The pink Cadillac.
Yeah, 1957 Coupe de Ville.
Coupe de Ville.
1957 Coupe de Ville, Titty Pink.
That's what you called her, Titty Pink.
Yeah. No, I take that back. That's what I called it when I got it.
When you got it.
But I wrote Po' Boy on the back fender.
Okay.
Yeah, Po' Boy in black letters.
Right, because you named all your cars that you was.
Always put names on them.
Yeah. And those names just kind of came to you, or just whatever you thought of at that time.
I was kind of loony back in them days.
Yeah.
And them women up there on 8th Street messed my mind up.
Right.
Had me liking them old women.
Yeah.
Yeah. Joe Green Mama. I used to like Joe Green Mama.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, Joe Green Mama was older. She must have been 10 or 12 years older than me. But I used to like his mama. Me and Joe Green.
Yeah, me and Joe Green.
Yeah, I used to like his mama.
Yeah.
And they thought he was the first black to play for the NFL.
Uh-huh.
He wasn't the first out of Temple.
Yeah.
He wasn't the first one. Rufus Granderson was the first one. 10 years before me and Joe Green.
What?
Rufus Granderson was his name. Class of 1955.
Was the first black one out of Temple to play in the NFL?
Yeah. And you wasn't going to find that. Play for the NFL. The first black out of Temple to play for the NFL. Rufus Granderson.
Right.
Class of 55.
Right.
1955. That's when he graduated.
Right.
And then he went to college. And he played for the Detroit Lions. And my grandbaby told me, he said, Grandpa, these smartphones will tell you everything.
Yeah.
I said, they ain't going to tell you that black history. Okay. I asked Justin, I said, who was the first black to play for the NFL out of Temple? That thing, I heard it say, we have no information on such and but later on, well, this right here probably about a year ago, but I told Justin that a long time ago. Right. This here probably been just a few months ago. Right. I was talking to a real good friend of mine named Bob Ritchie. He owned Texas Toy. It's a car lot right there on 8th Street. He's a good friend of mine. I was talking to him, and his son was over there ear hustling.
Yeah.
And when he was ear hustling, he was typing, putting stuff on his phone.
Right.
And I was telling him about all that stuff about the first black to play for the NFL stuff. And he wanted to know about that because he didn't believe it.
Yeah.
Okay, he got all that stuff, what I was telling his daddy, but he put it on the internet some kind of way, on the YouTube or whatever.
Right.
But anyway, he put it on there, and somebody called. No, somebody pulled it up. I was telling them about it, and I told him it wasn't on YouTube or whatever. Right. That boy put it on YouTube. Yeah. But he didn't put black man. Played for the NFL out of Temple, out of Dunbar.
Right.
He was talking in a roundabout way. He played for Temple High. Right. Wasn't no Temple High. Yeah. It was segregation days. Yeah.
So
in the 50s. No
Temple High. Yeah. Yeah. Sure would.
Rufus Granderson, that's his name.
Out of Temple, the first black
out of Temple, the first black to play for the NFL. Right. Out of Temple. Right. They called him Big Straight. All right, then, Big Straight. Yeah, that was his nickname. That's what they called him, Big Straight. Right. He was about 6'6", probably about, he was just straight up and down. He didn't have no weight on. Right. But boy, when he went to the NFL, he went to eating and ganging that way. Yeah. See, all black people were hungry. Right. Yeah, back in the day, everybody was thin. Yeah. Did you see me on that picture?
Yeah, I saw you.
I was thin.
Yeah.
But guess what?
Uh-huh.
I got a basketball.
Yeah. That's all right. That's all right. Well, you definitely have shared a whole lot of stories and a lot of true events that you lived, and you can tell and you can feel how the joy that you have talking about it, and that's good.
Tell you any day of the week.
Right, and that's why I always say that it's good for us to get that history from our elders so we don't lose that, because you shared so much now that, now once we get this out there on the World Wide Web, so many people have a chance to watch this and view this and enjoy it. And plus, because history is you get where you love talking about history.
Oh, yeah.
And we have a couple of other sessions, but this session is about to come to an end, so this is going to be like part one, because we still got to talk about Jeff Hamilton and let people know about Jeff Hamilton and who he was and what part he plays in our family history. They don't know nothing about him. Not yet, but I know, and plus, you'll be able to talk about it because you lived it and you know it and stuff like that. And so that'll be something that we'd like to share with everybody. Okay. But just to bring up one other thing, just to go back in time a little bit, on the swimming, the lifeguard, you said y'all had to go to Oklahoma.
Oh, yeah.
Because you couldn't get it in Texas.
Had to go to Oklahoma to take lifeguard training because of the segregation years. So Genevieve went first, and then 3 or 4 others went after Genevieve. Of course, no, I take that back. Genevieve didn't go first. My other older brother, his name was Willie Thomas Womack. That's his name. And he lives in Oklahoma. But anyway, he went to Oklahoma lifeguard training first. Right. The first lifeguard they had at Jeff Hamilton Park, they didn't go for no training because they didn't know they had to have a certificate to be a lifeguard. Right. And they let somebody drown. So later on in the swimming pool opened in 1946. That's when the swimming pool opened, Jeff Hamilton Park swimming pool. And I got a picture showing the opening of the swimming pool. Didn't I show you that?
Right. We'll just see if we can get
this right
into the shot right here.
Yeah, that picture right there. And I'm on that picture
right here.
Yeah, that's the picture with the opening of Jeff Hamilton swimming pool.
In Temple, Texas.
That's the groups right there, right here in Temple.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's where everybody was looking on as they getting ready to open up the
swimming pool.
Right.
Opening of the swimming pool, yeah.
And then
I'm on there with my daddy.
On this picture here,
on that picture right there.
Right.
And that's how I recognized myself, because I couldn't hardly tell who I was on there because, didn't have no good cameras back in them days.
Right.
But
and I see that on this one right here, it say 1958, and that would say 1950.
Okay.
So
that was at the swimming pool.
At the swimming pool, right.
Yeah.
So
that was Jeff Hamilton. See, they were sitting right out there by the swimming pool looking in the water.
Right.
At the people swim. And they were sitting up there.
Right.
Yeah.
So those were some good times and some good history right there we want to share with everyone.
You ain't going to find that in no books.
Oh, no. None of that's going to be in no book right there.
It ain't going to be on that smartphone either.
No. And I can tell you get joy out of talking about that. It seems like it just make you feel good. And you just
like you and me, boy.
So we're going to end this session today.
Oh, you wait till I get into that other.
So we'll come back on another one on that other session some other time. But we definitely appreciate you sharing everything with everybody and coming out and letting them know a lot of information that wasn't in the history book and everything like that. Yeah. So and just true down to the heart. And I'm sure everyone can tell that you're sincere about all of it because of how your emotions change and how you get to laughing and smiling and going on. So
I get a kick out of it nowadays, but back in the day it wasn't no kick out of it.
It wasn't no kick out of it. No. Time brought about a change.
Yeah, that's right.
We're going to end this session, and we're going to thank everybody for watching. I'm Paul Wizzo. Holla at your boy. We can cut it.
And good luck to all of y'all, and God bless you.
All right. But that'll be the